Almost no one loses their reputation explosively. It doesn't end in a scandal, nor in a gigantic mistake. Most of the time, it erodes silently, phrase by phrase, detail by detail, without you even realizing it. And the most dangerous part? Many of these phrases sound polite, correct, even well-intentioned. Machiavelli already warned, albeit indirectly. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, demands attention to micro-gestures, micro-spoken words, to what escapes without a filter. The problem is that the world doesn't react to your intention. It reacts to your behavior. The end justifies the means. And the most common way to lose power is to speak too much, at the wrong time, to the wrong person. Perhaps you've experienced this firsthand. You said something normal and suddenly found yourself less respected. You made a simple promise and became its prisoner. You over-explained and realized you lost authority. The harsh truth is this: it's better to be feared than loved when love comes with silent disrespect. Reputation isn't built on pretty speeches, but on decisions based on real human nature. People observe, test, push boundaries, and mentally note every time you expose yourself beyond what's necessary. In this video, you'll clearly see something that few teach: how seemingly harmless phrases destroy your social, professional, and emotional standing. It's not about becoming cold or arrogant. It's about the calculated use of force, the appearance of virtue and fortuna applied to everyday life. Less talk, more control. Less exposure, more respect. If you learn to cut these phrases out of your life, something changes quickly. People start measuring their words around you, and that says it all. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul. An invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. There's a curious discomfort in silence, and almost everyone rushes to fill it as if it were a fire about to spread. The mentor observes that in practice, whoever speaks first usually reveals more than they intend. In social settings, work meetings, or even intimate conversations, breaking the silence reveals haste, anxiety, and an almost automatic search for external validation. Machiavelli already taught, even without saying it aloud, that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, begins with mastering one's own impulses. Silence, when well used, creates an asymmetry of power and makes the other person act first. Better to be feared than loved, in this case, means being respected for composure. The end justifies the means, when the means is to hold one's tongue and observe patterns. People with an appearance of virtue speak little, listen much, and choose the exact moment to act. This is the calculated use of force, even if it is an invisible force. Those who master silence understand virtù and fortuna. Personal skill combined with the right timing. It's not about coldness, but about decisions based on real human nature. Ultimately, silence is unrevealed information. And information that is kept safe is protection. The mentor often gives a simple example. In a meeting, when a proposal is made and silence falls, observe who rushes to explain too much. Usually it's the person who is least confident in their own position. Strategic silence allows the other person to fill the void, revealing intentions, limits, and even weaknesses. It's like a game of chess played with your own loyal armies. You don't expose your pieces unnecessarily. Those who master this game avoid being hated because they don't provoke. They only observe, and by observing, they learn. Silence also avoids hasty promises and useless justifications, maintaining the appearance of virtue. In personal conversations, the principle is the same. When someone makes a veiled criticism or a provocation, remaining silent for a few seconds changes everything. The other person feels compelled to explain, back down, or compromise. The end justifies the means when the means is to preserve your position. It's not about winning arguments, it's about not engaging in them. This posture requires constant adaptability because silence is not absence, it's controlled presence. In practical life, the mentor suggests a simple exercise. In 3 interactions a day, respond with fewer words than usual. Don't explain yourself beyond what is necessary. Observe people's reactions. You will notice a slight discomfort, followed by silent respect. This is politics guided by reality, not by ideals in action. In social settings, those who speak little are usually listened to when they decide to speak. In professional environments, those who don't fill every pause convey dominance. Better to be feared than loved here doesn't mean inspiring fear, but unpredictability. And unpredictability protects. By controlling the impulse to speak, you avoid being hated, avoid overcommitting, and preserve room for maneuver. This is the basis of any solid strategy. Less exposure, more reading of the environment. Virtù and fortuna go hand in hand when you know how to wait. Silence creates a vacuum, and in a vacuum, someone always reveals themselves. And that's exactly where the next step begins to take shape. The mentor observes that loudly announcing victories is an almost childish impulse, a need for applause that exacts a high price later. When someone publicizes their successes, they unknowingly expose their method, rhythm, and intention. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals, demands discretion. Public victories arouse curiosity in the attentive and envy in the inattentive. The end justifies the means when the means is to preserve a competitive advantage. Celebrating in silence keeps the game opaque, sustains the appearance of virtue, and avoids unnecessary reactions. Better to be feared than loved here means being respected for consistency, not ostentation. Silent victory is the fruit of decisions based on real human nature. People observe, compare, and try to replicate. By keeping your triumph to yourself, you protect your path and manage virtù and fortuna with maturity. It's not performative humility, it's strategy. Whoever speaks less about gains maintains control of the board. In practice, the mentor suggests thinking of victories as maps. When you show the map, you teach the way. In business, for example, publicizing numbers, processes, and shortcuts invites competitors to copy and adjust. It's better to act with calculated use of force. Results speak when they need to speak. An entrepreneur can celebrate with an inner circle, keeping their own loyal armies informed, while the outside world receives only subtle signals. In social relationships, the logic is the same. Excessively narrating personal achievements creates comparisons and silent resistance. To avoid being hated, replace announcements with a calm presence. True victory alters posture, not discourse. Virtù and fortuna align when the timing of revealing is chosen, not impulsive. This restraint requires constant adaptability because the desire to tell is strong, but discipline protects. A simple exercise helps. After an achievement, write down what you learned and keep it to yourself for 7 days. Observe how the urge to share decreases and how your clarity increases. If you need to communicate, do so minimally and functionally. Instead of "I won," say "We are moving forward." This preserves the appearance of virtue and keeps the focus on the next step. The end justifies the means when the means is to consolidate an advantage before celebrating. Strategic people understand that applause too early shortens leadership. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, teaches you to let others realize, on their own, that something has changed. Silence after victory creates expectation, and expectation pulls the next conversation into delicate territory. How to react when someone tries to provoke emotion to extract information. The mentor often says that anger is an open invitation for those who know how to observe. When someone explodes, they reveal the complete map of their own emotional triggers. That's when decisions based on real human nature come into play. People test limits, provoke reactions, and analyze responses. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals, begins with internal control. Better to be feared than loved is not about shouting louder, but about not reacting as expected. Public anger weakens the appearance of virtue because it reveals haste and loss of control. The end justifies the means when the means is to contain emotion, to preserve position. Those who master their own reaction apply calculated use of force. They respond when they decide, not when provoked. This discipline creates silent respect and hinders any attempt at manipulation. In the social game, those who remain calm force the other to expose themselves. In practice, the mentor observes common scenarios. Someone makes a pointed criticism at work or throws out an ironic remark in a meeting. The immediate reaction of anger reveals exactly what the provocateur intended. Silence, or a neutral response, on the other hand, shifts power. It's like maintaining your own loyal armies, protecting your emotional territory. Virtù and fortuna appear when you choose not to react in the heat of the moment. To avoid being hated, calmness needs to be firm, not passive. A simple "I understand" or "let's evaluate" disarms the attack and maintains control. Constant adaptability is essential. Sometimes the best response is none, sometimes it's short and precise. Controlled anger becomes internal fuel, not an external spectacle. A practical exercise helps train this. Whenever you feel anger rising, mentally count to 10 and rephrase your response in a short sentence. No long explanations, no justifications. This habit preserves the appearance of virtue and prevents emotions from becoming ammunition. The end justifies the means when the means is to protect your emotional authority. Strategic people know that losing your temper means losing information. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, teaches that self-control generates unpredictability, and unpredictability generates respect. By controlling anger, you close doors to direct attacks, but you open another delicate, almost invisible issue that often brings many people down without them realizing it. What happens when the tongue loosens too much under an atmosphere of false intimacy? The mentor warns that few things sabotage a reputation as much as the false sense of intimacy created in relaxed environments. Drinks, a relaxed atmosphere, laughter, and suddenly secrets begin to spill across the table as if they were harmless. Decisions based on real human nature show that not every attentive ear is trustworthy. Machiavelli knew that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires self-control, even outside the formal field. The end justifies the means when the means is to protect sensitive information. Revealing too much under emotional influence destroys the appearance of virtue and offers free ammunition. Better to be feared than loved here is to be respected within clear limits. Those who confess too much lose opacity, and those who lose opacity become predictable. Virtù and fortuna favor those who know what to keep silent about, not those who say everything they feel. In practice, the mentor recalls encounters where someone, fueled by alcohol, reveals professional frustrations, family conflicts, or future plans. The next day, the feeling is one of lightness. Weeks later, the information returns distorted, used out of context. Avoiding being hated involves not creating dangerous emotional asymmetries. Artificial intimacy is not real trust. Trust is built over time with your own loyal armies, not with occasional audiences. Calculated use of force means choosing what to share and with whom. Strategic people maintain light conversations in public and deep ones only in safe spaces. Constant adaptability comes into play when you perceive the environment changing and adjust the level of openness before it's too late. A simple exercise helps. Before sharing something personal, mentally ask yourself, could this be used against me? If the answer is maybe, remain silent. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, teaches that not every outburst needs a witness. The end justifies the means when the means is to preserve your image and your room for maneuver. Powerful people talk about ideas, not intimate weaknesses in open settings. This maintains the appearance of virtue and makes malicious interpretations more difficult. By controlling your confessions, you preserve silent authority and begin to realize another common mistake that undermines respect without fanfare: the almost automatic need to over-explain yourself. The mentor observes that over-explaining is a defense mechanism learned early on. The person feels the need to justify their existence as if they were always under judgment. In practice, this reveals something dangerous. It validates the authority of the one who questions. Decisions based on real human nature show that those who over-explain implicitly accept an inferior position. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals, demands conciseness. The end justifies the means when the means is to protect one's own position with few words. Better to be feared than loved here means being respected for firmness, not submission. Lengthy explanations erode the appearance of virtue and expose insecurity. Strategic people answer what is necessary and stop. Silence after the answer is part of the calculated use of force. Those who master this don't ask permission to be taken seriously. In practical life, the mentor sees this in meetings, relationships, and even text messages. Someone questions a simple decision and the person launches into an entire paragraph trying to justify themselves. The effect is the opposite of what is desired. Avoiding being hated isn't about pleasing by explaining everything. It's about establishing clear boundaries. A short answer: it was a strategic decision. It's already resolved. I won't go into that point now, preserves authority and keeps your own loyal armies aligned. Virtù and fortuna manifest when you choose not to feed unnecessary interrogations. Constant adaptability helps to calibrate. There are times to explain, but they are rare and intentional. The rule is simple: those who ask too many questions don't always deserve a complete answer. A practical exercise strengthens this habit. Reduce your answers by half for a week. If you would normally explain in 5 sentences, use 2. Observe how the conversation changes. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, teaches that excessive transparency weakens. The end justifies the means when the means is to preserve respect. Powerful people leave blank spaces, and these spaces force the other person to think. This sustains the appearance of virtue and prevents subtle intrusions. When you stop explaining yourself, you notice something curious. Many don't want guidance, they want comparison. And that's exactly where the next trap arises, the one that transforms competence into silent enemies. The mentor teaches that competence displayed uninvited often becomes a threat. Most people believe that helping is always well received, but decisions based on real human nature show the opposite. Unsolicited advice wounds the ego of the recipient. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals, requires a keen reading of the environment. The end justifies the means when the means is to restrain one's own intelligence to preserve strategic relationships. Better to be feared than loved here means being respected for perceived ability, not for constant correction. Those who correct too much destroy the appearance of virtue because they place themselves above others without permission. Silent competence applies a calculated use of force. It observes, waits, and intervenes only when called upon. This self-control is a clear sign of virtue and fortune aligned. In practice, the mentor points out common situations. Someone explains a problem at work, and another interrupts with ready-made solutions. The result is rarely gratitude. It's usually resistance. Avoiding being hated involves understanding that people prefer to make mistakes alone rather than be corrected in public. Those who master the game maintain their own loyal and attentive armies, but don't invade someone else's territory. Constant adaptability helps to perceive when advice will be seen as help and when it will be interpreted as an attack. A simple strategy is to ask beforehand, "Do you want a suggestion or just to vent?" This question preserves the appearance of virtue and returns control to the other person. If the answer is silence or evasion, the mentor recommends, back down. A practical exercise strengthens this attitude. For a few days, write down every time you feel the urge to correct someone. Instead of speaking, observe the outcome. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, teaches that letting others make mistakes creates more lasting learning and greater respect. The end justifies the means when the means is to avoid unnecessary exposure. Strategic people allow their competence to be perceived through results, not through discourse. This sustains virtue and fortune and avoids silent conflicts. By containing the need to teach, you conserve energy and begin to perceive another subtle, almost invisible trap that ensnares many people without them realizing it: the promise made to relieve pressure. The mentor often says that easy promises are costly later. Often, they are made to alleviate momentary pressure, end discomfort, or maintain a positive image. Decisions based on real human nature show that those who promise too much become predictable and vulnerable. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals, requires parsimony with words. The end justifies the means when the means is to protect long-term credibility. Better to be feared than loved here means being respected for consistency, not good intentions. Every promise creates an invisible debt that weighs on the appearance of virtue. Strategic people promise little and deliver much. This is the true, calculated use of force in communication. In practice, the mentor observes promises arising in common phrases. "We'll see later," "Leave it to me," "I'll handle it." Dictated by impulse, these create expectations that cannot always be fulfilled. Avoiding being hated involves aligning words and actions. Those who maintain their own loyal armies know that trust is born from the rarity of the promise, not its abundance. Virtù and fortuna go hand in hand when you measure the impact of each commitment before undertaking it. Constant adaptability comes from learning to replace promises with real presence. "I'll evaluate." "I'll get back to you when I have clarity." That depends on some factors. These phrases preserve the appearance of virtue without imprisoning the future. A practical exercise helps to recalibrate. For 1 week, eliminate vague promises from your vocabulary. If you can't deliver precisely, don't promise. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, teaches that words need to be rare to be valuable. The end justifies the means when the means is maintaining autonomy. Powerful people carefully choose when to compromise because they know that every promise limits movement. By doing so, you close a silent cycle. Speak less, react less, promise less, and keep others always attentive. Strategic silence is not absence. It is a presence that controls the entire game. Now comes the part that almost no one does: applying it. Knowing that strategic silence is power changes nothing if you continue to react impulsively, over-explaining, promising to ease tension, or speaking when you should be observing. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, demands daily action. Ask yourself, in what moments do you surrender power without realizing it? In which recent conversation did you speak more than you needed to? Where did your anger, your desire to help, or your need to be understood cost you respect? Decisions based on real human nature require brutal honesty with oneself. Machiavelli didn't teach social tricks. He taught worldviews. The end justifies the means when the means are protecting your position, your reputation, and your freedom of movement. Better to be feared than loved doesn't mean intimidating, but being predictable only to yourself. When you speak less, promise less, and react less, something changes quickly. People around you begin to measure their words. This is the calculated use of force. This is virtù and fortuna at work in everyday life. And above all, this helps avoid being hated because you stop exposing yourself as an easy target. Now tell me, which of these phrases do you find most harmful to you today? In which situation in your life can you apply this self-control this week? If this content resonated with you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue learning how to play the game of life with clarity, strategy, and awareness. Because those who understand silence never again speak out of weakness.